Welcome, everybody, to a special edition of UFO Man Live on Friday night, June 25th, the day the UFO report dropped. My name is Tim, or UFO Man, and to my right is my co-host, my best friend, Tommy Highway. Take it away, Tommy.
Folks, I'm Tommy Highway. Want to thank everybody for coming. As always, got a really great show for you tonight. They dropped the report, folks. We've got it here for you. We also have a very special guest. Folks, I'd like to introduce you to Sherry from Paranormal World Investigators. And she's a very special person, lovely lady, very intelligent. Sherry, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your channel, please?
Hello, I'm Sherry. I am from Paranormal World Investigators. I am an investigator in the strange and the unknown. I look into everything from paranormal to cryptozoology and the best, obviously, ufology as well, guys. I have a company, and I just want to say that I'm very honoured to be here with these gentlemen, and I'm looking forward to the conversations with them. And hello to the group.
Thank you for coming, Sherry.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Very well.
Tonight we have a very special show because we are going to read the entire UFO report live so that you know exactly what it says. Tommy Highway is going to address that issue. But before we do that, we are going to play our UFO news segment from the last week leading up to the report. So here we go.
We can't get enough of it either. It is time for more conspiracy theories. The truth is out there. But don't count on the government to give it to you. The Pentagon's stellar report on the UFOs expected to be released to the public any day now after admitting that, yeah, UFOs are regularly spotted in U.S. airspace. But whistleblower Luis Elizondo is not confident. We're going to learn what the government actually knows about unidentified aerial phenomena and where they came from. We can't trust the government to do most things right, so can we really expect them to be honest about flying saucers? Joining me now, former director of the Pentagon's Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program and star of Unidentified on History, Luis Elizondo is here. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me back. Always a pleasure.
Why do they think we can't handle the truth?
Well, I don't know if it's a matter of they don't think we can handle the truth about the topic or about the dysfunction that's currently going on inside the Pentagon. Look, the Pentagon does a lot of things right and is comprised of some fantastic human beings. But unfortunately, about this topic specifically, there seems to be some significant amount of dysfunction where even internally the Pentagon can't get their story straight.
Are there two camps? Is there disagreement here? Are there people who are like, hey, man, let's follow the evidence, and others who are like, no, we can never admit that. Leave me alone.
You know, that's certainly possible. I mean, we just had a stunning admission that for the first time in the history of this country, that what we're seeing is not secret U.S. technology. So for the last 30 years, there's been some conspiracies about this being some sort of secret U.S. tech and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But this week, it looks like that argument was put to bed. And really, there's only two more options left. One is it's adversarial technology, or two, it's something quite significantly different. And I think people are trying to wrap their heads around that right now.
Do you think it's possible that the Chinese government has already developed hypersonic craft?
Well, we know they're looking at hypersonic craft, but that's not in total to what we're seeing. We're seeing things such as, instantaneous acceleration and transmedium travel and low observability and what appears to be some sort of anti-gravity. Look, these things don't even have wings, cockpits, control surfaces, or any obvious signs of propulsion, and they're able to outperform anything we have in our inventory, and we're pretty sure it's not in any foreign inventory as well.
We're pretty sure, but then again, we don't have any spies left in China, so who really knows? I want them to stop with the balloons. Stop saying it could be weather balloons. It's not weather balloons. It has been weather balloons for about 60 years. Why are they still going with the weather balloons?
Well, because it's easy and it's convenient. What they don't realize is they're looking at a simple video. They don't have the radar data. They don't have the information that's leading up to the video or afterwards. And frankly, they're ignoring the observations by the pilots. When the pilots are saying, look, it's going 120 knots against the wind, balloons don't do that. Balloons, quite frankly, they flow with the prevailing wind. So I think there's a lot of cognitive dissonance going on right now. I think there's a lot of people that are frankly uncomfortable with the conversation, and I think that's what we're seeing right now with a whole spectrum of individuals, both in the government and outside the government.
It only feeds conspiracy theories. I really think after all the country and the world has been through, especially this past year, we really can handle some weird truths. I don't think it means that our country is going to be taken over and co-opted by angry ETs. Last thought,
Right.
what do you expect to see here?
Well, look, Kennedy, to be honest with you, it takes longer sometimes to remodel a household kitchen than it does to put this 180-day report together. And secondly, most of the people, at the time were under COVID restrictions, couldn't even go to work. So I think at best what we're going to see is a big shoulder shrug. We don't know what this is. We know it's not ours, and anything else is a best guess, which hopefully will lead to a more long-term effort to figure this out. Hopefully, a more enduring capability, which frankly Congress and the American people deserve.
Well, the big breakthrough, I think, since our reporting in 2017 was that they are real. For years, they were, written off as psychological constructs, archetypes, hallucinations. And now we know from the Navy, imaging devices, et cetera, that they're real. What we don't know is where they come from, who's behind the wheel, why they're here, and how they, produce the amazing aerodynamics that they have. So, the big questions are still out there, but at least we know now for the first time that these things have a physicality, and that's a good start.
I mean, it's a game changer, but also, Ralph, is it plausible that this could be from Russia or China, that they would have technology that is that many light years ahead of the United States?
Extremely unlikely. The sources that we talk to at the New York Times say that they cannot imagine that an earthly adversary has this advanced technology. And as for our own technology showing up there, that's even more unlikely that we would, risk accidents or disclosure of our secrets if they are our secrets, in our own airspace. So everything points to an extraterrestrial explanation, but of course no one wants to say that because it's so outlandish and so unprovable that they're sticking with what they know, which is that these things are unidentified and they're real. But beyond that, no one knows.
Well, there's some concern and action at NASA indeed, because UFO sightings are generally dismissed often as someone with an overactive imagination, or it's an optical illusion, or it's some American aircraft that someone in our country just doesn't recognize. But in this case, federal lawmakers who have been briefed on the sightings say we're dealing with something quite different this time. And NASA Administrator Bill Nelson said it's something that the space agency is very serious about and giving it the time and attention it deserves, because he said at this point it truly defies explanation. Navy pilots say they saw something that defies the limits of known aviation technology.
My gosh.
They've been popping up around our national security facilities and baffling veteran military personnel.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA.
And civilians, including commercial airline pilots, are also seeing it.
We just had something go right over the top of us.
Here's a rendering of what an American Airlines pilot reported.
I hate to say this, looked like a long cylindrical object. It almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast that went right over the top of us.
Well, Senator Marco Rubio, who chairs the Senate Intelligence Committee, and others in Congress have been sounding alarms.
We don't know who they are, don't know what it is. It isn't ours.
And now NASA Administrator Bill Nelson says our space agency is trying to figure it out. As a former member of the Armed Services Committee and now head of NASA, few have more insight on the eyewitness accounts than Nelson.
We are doing a lot. As a matter of fact, I have seen and been briefed on those films that you have seen. I have talked to those Navy pilots.
They said it was no optical illusion or radio frequency blip.
They followed it, and then suddenly it would move in a direction faster than anything that they had ever seen. So there is a phenom there. What is it? So what I did when I got into NASA a month ago, I asked our chief scientists and the science directorate if they would look at it from a matter of science and see if it can shed any further light on this.
since the objects are showing up around national security sites and our military does test experimental aircraft. Of course, there's speculation it's technology for our own intelligence operations, but the Department of Defense has said it's not.
It's not just those couple of Navy pilots. This has happened now among a number of aviators. So there's something there. We just don't know what it is.
Do you think it could possibly be Russia or another foreign adversary?
That's why we need to find out, because if there is an adversary with that kind of technology, then we definitely need to be very, very careful.
Yesterday, Senator, we've spoken on this topic before, and what we learned from yesterday was that these UFOs cause a pressing threat to America's national security, as the highly classified briefing apparently were things that those people did not know before. Do you believe that these unidentified flying objects are new technology from our adversaries?
I hope they're not. I don't know what they are. I don't think the Navy or the intelligence community knows what it is. But I think the point is you're never going to find out if you don't start looking. For many years, it was just being ignored. It was like, it doesn't make sense. We've never seen it before, so don't report it. We don't know what it is. Look, we don't need a report to tell us it's a national security threat. It's flying over restricted airspace, and it isn't ours.
Former chief of the Pentagon's Unidentified Flying Object Investigation Program, Luis Elizondo, has confirmed to the Washington Examiner that the U.S. government is considering whether UFOs are or are not of earthly origin.
Elizondo recently said these flying objects are, quote, extraterrestrial, extra-dimensional, or the creation of an Earth-based intelligence unknown to human society. Commentary writer at the Washington Examiner, Tom Rogan, joins us to discuss now. Tom, what do you think? Are they extra-worldly or interdimensional? Which one is it?
You know, we don't know, but the fact that that is a legitimate question deserving of answers, the pursuit of answers rather than scorn or stigma, I think speaks to the importance of this issue, both in terms of, you know, security implications, but broader philosophical questions. So, you know, the legitimacy of the question in and of itself now, I think, is a striking evolution from where we've been in the past.
Yeah, so Tom, this report is really, really big in my opinion, because we you know, Luis Elizondo has sort of been out there and talking about all of this stuff, but his confirmation to you that this is something the government is actively investigating, and that's something that people sort of suspected, but to actually have confirmation from the man who's the former chief of the Pentagon's program that's looking into this is quite a big deal. And in his estimation, in your report and in your interview with him, he calls this the probability that this is of human sort of military programs infinitesimally low. The probability that what we're seeing with some of these UAP videos is infinitesimally low, that it would be coming from the United States, China, or Russia. So my question to you is, why trust Luis Elizondo? He's coming out of the Pentagon. Is this an info operation, right? Why should people not believe that this information is being either leaked selectively and then confirmed selectively, and then Elizondo is sort of making selective appearances in the press? You've covered this for a really long time. Why is that skepticism unwarranted?
Well, I think the first reason is that there are a considerable number of other people, including some still working on the issue actively, who will say the same thing and who have said the same thing to me. I think what's key about Elizondo is he's had the courage to go on the record and say it. But he is not one by in and of himself. He reflects a broader, you know, gamut of officials, experts, as it were, in the government who have come to that same conclusion. I also think it's important to note that when we're talking here about some of these UFOs, so the Navy 2004 Tic Tac that people have paid attention to would be one of them. There are others. It's a special class, right? That not all UFOs that the Navy's been seeing are under this class. Some are likely to turn out being misidentified weather balloons, or maybe Chinese and Russian, you know, sensor platforms that they've launched off cargo ships, which the Drive website did a very good piece kind of examining. It's this special quality where we see, you know, instantaneous acceleration, hypersonics, transmedium travel, which is to say space, air, sea, hundreds of knots under the water, no conventional propulsion source, G-forces that would range up, based on our understanding of contemporary physics, into the 700s. That category, where you've got both pilots seeing it, they're recording it on their gun cameras, which are the cameras underneath the jets, the Aegis cruisers, which are very advanced radar systems, the submarines, the satellites are all picking up the same thing in the same space in the same time. Then you've got a lot of data to say, okay, this is a special class of something. What that something is, again, as as you suggested in the first question, is yet to be defined.
That's absolutely right, Tom. I mean, when we look at some of these videos, the special class of videos that you say, these things move by unconventional means, and we have no idea to explain how they're actually doing what they're doing. So what other explanation could there possibly be? We can't build things that do this. So who did?
Right.
Right. Exactly. And I think one of the notable things, that Elizondo sort of hinted at in the piece, and, unfortunately wouldn't really go further, is the idea that the materials, the metamaterials used to produce some of these things are, allow for a different range of technical capability, at least theoretically, right? That if you've started looking at some of the theoretical, metallurgy and theoretical physics, you get into an area where perhaps you can start explaining this stuff. But the top line, I think, is that we don't know. We have theories, but we don't know. But it does represent an unconventional realm of physics. And the one thing I always say to in terms of, at least let's try and resource up in getting answers. Well, two things. Number one, we don't want the Chinese and Russians who are studying it as well and experiencing it as well to figure it out before we can. And secondly, in the technical characteristics of these craft, at least in the displayed performance, regardless of the philosophical questions of origin and intent, the capability question, is so instrumental, because there's a new, think about it, right? If you could get something from point A to B in such a short period of time without using jet fuel, what would that mean for the environment in terms of carbon emissions, or simply the ease to go and have lunch in London or Paris and be back in 3 minutes? So that we don't know, right? And that's just pie in the sky theory, but clearly we should want to know.
So one of the things that Elizondo confirmed in his conversation with you is that this has been an active consideration of the U.S. government, whether these are not of earthly origin, and continues to be an active investigation or consideration of the U.S. government and of the Pentagon. So what do we know about the Russian and the Chinese efforts to do the same, to sort of actively investigate these phenomenon and they've been doing this for years as well. What does that tell us about the considerations of whether these are of earthly origins? Basically, what does what we know about what they're doing tell us about what this stuff might be?
Yeah, well, so the South China Morning Post, which is a very, very good, media outlet based out of Hong Kong, did a really good piece a couple of weeks ago on how the Chinese People's Liberation Army, their military, is using AI-based software to try and track and catalog these things, because they, are having the same sort of flight experiences from their pilots. I would also assume that they're seeing them at nuclear sites, because there's a synergy between nuclear sites and the appearance of these things. But the Russians, since the Cold War, have been interested, that, a lot of research, much more overt in terms of compared to the US Navy, about seeing these things under the water, or at least tracking them. And, based on the Russian interest in, what would be called strategic overmatch, which is the idea of being able to develop a capability that gives you a massive advantage over an adversary, it would make obvious sense that they would invest in it. I think they also, because of the Russian tradition of sort of secular, central government, that perhaps the Russians have had more ease in terms of the government bureaucracy in resourcing these things and not worrying about some of the philosophical questions as much as, say, the US traditionally has. I think in the coming years, one of the things we'll learn is the degree to which the US Air Force has had some unfortunate decisions, because certain senior officers believed this, had a quality that did not, that was perhaps anathema to American religious and cultural values. I think that clearly is not the kind of approach that policymakers, when you're faced with something that might be a threat or might be something unconventional, you've got to try and address it.
I want to know, I mean, what exactly do you expect to hear when this thing finally comes out?
Well, this is supposed to be released on Friday. Supposed to be. We'll see. That's their deadline. One of three things are going to happen. One, they're going to say that this technology is the United States. It's ours. I hope that might be the case. Two, they're going to say that it could be Russian or Chinese. That's not good. And three, they may say it's extraterrestrial. Now, some of this information, Rob, has been leaked out over the last week or week and a half, and they're kind of hinting toward technology, earthbound, but they don't know where it's coming from. That's the scary part.
How on earth could there be? I mean, when you look at the way these things fly, we've got these videos that show they're cruising along, they can stop and they can go up and down. I mean, how could some other country, I mean, I would think it has to be China, by the way, but how could some other country have that and we not know about it?
They're talking about hypersonic technology. And if one of these other countries has it, my question is, and what I talk about on our radio show every night, is why aren't they using it in some kind of weaponry or pushing or force? I don't think it's Russian. I don't think it's Chinese. It could be. I don't think it is. I think it's either US technology or it's coming from up there.
So you don't. I mean, I know you're a believer, right? You talk about this stuff all the time. Give me. What do you think is out there?
Look, this universe is too vast. I have interviewed so many scientists and ufologists over the years. These people are telling us information, and they're going to be vindicated. I mean, there's something going on in this universe. Have we been visited? Have we been seeded by these ETs? That's very possible. My personal gut tells me these are visitors from extraterrestrial planets within our solar system. Some other people think they're coming from other dimensions or other multiverses. That's possible too. But I think in this vast universe of billions of stars, as Carl Sagan used to say, we've got planets that are inhabited with advanced civilizations that are billions of years further than where we are, and they have developed a way to get here. And it's an amazing story. It's really exciting. I can't wait for it.
Senator Reid, though, doesn't believe the government held back information about UFOs for fear there would be a general panic. It had more to do with how the government should be accountable.
I don't think that's the key worry. The worry is that taxpayers would feel it's wasting their money on this ghost-like stuff. And I think that the study that I got, where we spent $22 million of taxpayers' money, was important because we were able to show, after we did that report, we were able to show after we did the work, that the report indicated that there weren't 10 or 12 sightings, but hundreds and hundreds of them. And so it's something that I felt at the time I'd like to know more, and we did learn more.
Lawmakers from both political parties say it is time to determine whether the objects pose a threat to the U.S. The report is expected to focus on whether the craft belonged to a U.S. adversary. Could Russia or China have developed what appears to be highly advanced technology? This is unlikely, says Marek von Rennenkampf, a defense analyst during the Obama administration.
China, we know, is struggling with basic jet engine technology. China relies on espionage to secure much of its advanced defense technology. Russia has a defense budget that is a fraction of the United States.
The report has been 6 months in the making, incorporating evidence available for many years. Indications are that intelligence officials are still not ready to reveal any firm conclusions. While there is reportedly no evidence of extraterrestrials, they have not been ruled out either.
From what I've heard from folks in the government, that there's not enough time to compile a coherent report on this issue. We don't have the analysis that we really need. This is a long-term project. I think it's a right step.
Adding to the intrigue, China has its own program studying UFOs. According to a recent South China Morning Post article, in which a researcher names the U.S. as a possible source of the objects.
So what do you think about that, Tommy?
Well, it's been a lot of speculation. There's been a lot of hype building up to this report and all of that. Folks, we've got it. I'm about to read it with you. We're going to go over this thing and see what we can, what we can make sense of. Sherry, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, yeah, not quite as much evidence out as we want to get, but I did notice in it that there was a little bit more lenient on talking a little bit more open about it. Maybe not as open as we want them to, but as I've said before, that's why there are people like us to look into this and look into what they're putting out there. A very interesting video. Some of it makes sense, but some of it to me, it's like, again, it's just them talking what they think they know and trying to, in some ways, hide the facts that aliens are not real when aliens in fact are. So
yep, fantastic. Well, folks,
okay, there you go.
Yep. Okay, folks, this is the moment that we've all been waiting for. I just got a hold of this a few hours ago, and some of the things that you read on Facebook are true. I did need a minute alone and a cigarette afterward. But that being said, what we've got here, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to go through the whole thing. This is from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence of these United States of America. Preliminary Assessment on Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, 25th of June, 2021. So hot off the presses, and as you can see, it is in fact declassified. I'm just going to go ahead and read it in its entirety. If anybody has any questions, please stop me at any time. We're happy to discuss this, but it's only 9 pages, so it shouldn't take too long to go through. I will say that I have read this several times. And, well, it's not without its charms, I'll put it that way. And that's about as far as I can go with it. Let's get started, folks. Scopes and assumptions of this document. This preliminary report is provided by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in response to the provision in Senate Report 116233, accompanying the Intelligence Authorization Act for fiscal year 2021, that the DNI, in consultation with the Secretary of Defense, is to submit an intelligence assessment of the threat posed by unidentified aerial phenomenon and the progress of the Department of Defense Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force has made in understanding this threat. This report provides an overview for policymakers of the challenges associated with characterizing the potential threat posed by UAP, while also providing a means to develop relevant processes, policies, technologies, and training for the U.S. military and other U.S. government personnel if and when they encounter a UAP, so as to enhance the intelligence community's ability to understand the threat. The director of the UAPTF is the accountable official for ensuring a timely collection and consolidation of data on UAP. The data set described in this report is currently limited primarily to the U.S. government reporting of incidents occurring from November of 2004 to March of 2021. Data continues to be collected and analyzed. So what we're looking at here, folks, is we're not looking at the big picture on this report. We're looking at a very small fraction of time, roughly 15 years. Okay, they're not going back as far as Roswell. They didn't do any of that stuff. This is just basically, in my opinion, what we're seeing from the United States military, and that's what this report is based on. The ODNI prepared this report for the Congressional Intelligence and Armed Services Committees. UAPTF and the ODNI National Intelligence Manager for Aviation drafted this report with input from a bunch of 3-letter agencies. You folks can read those: the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, and so on. So, and even the Counterintelligence and Security Center was involved in this. So if you look at this, they touched a lot of different organizations, including the NSA, for this report. Now, did they get what they were asking for? Well, we've all heard about the NSA and the FBI, so who really knows? Okay, the assumptions: various forms of sensors that register UAP generally operate correctly and capture enough real data to allow initial assessments, but some UAP may be attributed to sensor anomalies. So, okay, what they're saying here is that they have sensors such as radar tracks, and they've probably got all kinds of other ways of detecting things, technologies and stuff that they're not talking about here. What they're saying is that most of the time that equipment is spot on the money. Okay, it doesn't fail, but there can be an anomaly. But that doesn't really pass the smell test when you've got eyewitnesses accounts and you've also got radar accounts of the same object at the same time in the same place, right? So that doesn't really hold water. So the executive summary, the limited amount of high quality reporting on unidentified aerial phenomena hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of UAP. The Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force considered a range of information on UAP described in the U.S. military and intelligence community reporting, but because the reporting lacks sufficient specificity, ultimately recognized that a unique, tailored reporting process was required to provide sufficient data for analysis of UAP events. And what you're seeing right there, folks, is the government saying we're lifting the stigma off of this now. Okay,
Yep.
Now we want to know what this is, and our pilots are going to be able to come forward with what they're seeing, our military personnel, things like that. And that's a huge, huge step. I mean, if you'd have told me this was going to happen 10 years ago, I would have laughed about it. There's just no way. It's got a couple of bullet points here. As a result of the UAPTF concentrated its review on reports that occurred between 2004 and 2021, the majority of which were as a result of this new tailored process to better capture UAP events through formalized reporting. Most of the UAP reported probably do represent physical objects, given that a majority of UAP were registered across multiple sensors to include radar, infrared, electro-optical, weapon seekers, and visual observation. So that covers it all right there. All of the sensors that they're using, and visual observations from pilots and even people on ships or whatever. I mean, again, they're coming out saying that they want more information, which it's just such leaps and bounds from what it used to be, a complete and total denial, you know? In a limited number of incidents, UAP reportedly appeared to exhibit unusual flight characteristics. These observations could be the result of sensor errors, spoofing, or observer misinterpretation and require additional rigorous analysis. There are probably multiple types of UAP recurring, different explanations based on a range of appearances and behaviors described in the available reporting. Our analysis of the data supports the construct that if and when an individual UAP incidents are resolved, they will fall into one of 5 potential explanatory categories: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomenon, USG or U.S. industrial development programs, foreign adversary systems, and a catch-all other bin. So that's how they're classifying it. UAP clearly pose a safety of flight issue and may pose a challenge to U.S. national security. Safety concerns primarily center on aviators contending with an increasingly cluttered air domain. UAP would also represent a national security challenge if they are a foreign adversary collection platforms or provide evidence a potential adversary has developed either a breakthrough or disruptive technology. Consistent consolidation of reports from across the federal government, standardized reporting, increased collection and analysis, and a streamlined process for screening all such reports against a broad range of relevant USG data will allow for more sophisticated analysis of a UAP that is likely to deepen our understanding. Some of these steps are resource intensive and would require an additional investment. So there's your additional military funding question right there. And for everybody that was wondering if that's where the United States government was going to end up going on this, well, that's what they're saying. They're saying, hey, we need more money to study this, but they didn't actually give you an amount. So, okay. Available reporting largely inconclusive. Limited data and inconsistencies in reporting are key challenges to evaluating UAP. No standardized reporting mechanism existed until the Navy established one in March of 2019. So in other words, they didn't even have a way to collect this information. They didn't even have the forms to fill out to report something like this. That's what they're saying. The Air Force subsequently adopted that mechanism in November of 2020, but it remains limited to USG reporting. The UAPTF regularly heard anecdotally during its research about other observations that occurred, but which were never captured in formal or informal reporting by those observers. They didn't have the forms to report it, and everybody was scared to death to come forward and do so. I mean, that's what happened there. That's why we don't know more than we know right now. It's like Tim and I were saying, now that the stigma is starting to be lifted from this issue, how many great stories have we not heard over the years because of people's, pilots or even everyday people's fear of retribution and ridicule? I mean,
right.
Exactly. And a lot of those are lost in time. We'll probably never hear. Then it's unfortunate. But after carefully considering this information, the UAPTF focused on reports that involved UAP largely witnessed firsthand by military aviators and that were collected from systems we consider to be reliable. These reports describe incidents that occurred between 2004 and 2021, with the majority coming in the last 2 years as the new reporting mechanism became better known to the military aviation community. We were able to identify one reported UAP with high confidence. In that case, we identified the object as a large deflating balloon. Others remain unexplained. Okay. Now we've got some bullets here. 144 reports originated from USG sources. Of these, 80 reports involved observations with multiple sensors. Most reports describe UAP as objects that interrupted pre-planned training or other military activity. Okay. Now, this is where they go into, this is kind of like a little addendum or whatever to this. This is where they go into something really interesting. And UAP collection challenges. Sociocultural stigmas and sensor limitations remain obstacles to collecting data on UAP. Although some technical challenges, such as how to appropriately filter out radar clutter to ensure safety of flight for military and civilian aircraft, are long-standing in the aviation community, while others are unique to the UAP problem set. Narratives from aviators in the operational community and analysis from the military and IC describe disparagement associated with observing UAP, reporting it, or attempting to discuss it with colleagues. Although the effects of these stigmas have lessened as the senior members of the scientific, policy, military, and intelligence communities engage on the topic seriously in public, reputational risk may keep many observers silent, complicating scientific pursuit of the topic. It's like we were just talking about. Pilots have been scared to death to come forward. I mean, what was the Japanese pilot, cargo pilot again, Tim?
Tarachi.
Look what they did to that poor guy. I mean, they basically destroyed him, and he was just reporting what was happening to him in real time. And he even had a crew with him, and they're seeing the same thing. And they still destroyed the guy because they wanted to suppress the story. That's why. Okay. The sensors mounted on UFO military platforms are typically designed to fulfill specific missions. As a result, those sensors are not generally suited for identifying UAP. Sensor vantage points and the numbers of sensors concurrently observing an object play substantial roles in distinguishing UAP from known objects and determining whether a UAP demonstrates breakthrough aerospace capabilities. Optical sensors have the benefit of providing some insight into relative size, shape, and structure. Radio frequency sensors provide more accurate velocity and range information, as well as other things. Okay, but some potential patterns do emerge. Although there was a wide variability in the reports, and the data set is currently too limited to allow for detailed trend or pattern analysis, there was some clustering of UAP observations regarding shape, size, and particularly propulsion. UAP sightings also tended to cluster around U.S. training and testing grounds, but we assess that this may be the result from collection bias based on bias as a result of focused attention, greater numbers of latest generation sensors operating in those areas, unit expectations, and guidance to report anomalies. Okay. A handful of UAP appear to demonstrate advanced technology. In 18 incidents described in 21 different reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics. Some UAP appeared to remain stationary in the winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, or move at a considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems process radio frequencies, energy associated with UAP sightings. Now, that's what I was talking to Tim about during the Tic Tac incident. They always tell the Fravor story and all that, and that's great. It's a wonderful story, but there's another part of that incident, and that's where one of those Hawkeye spy planes, or those Hawkeye radar planes that they send up from the carriers, that has every sensor, the top of the line, every kind of available sensor on it that you can imagine. And this Tic Tac pulled right up next to that thing. Now, these things are designed to spy. That's what those planes, that's the reason for their being. That's why we pay all that money for them. And I've always wanted to know what kind of signals that they must have picked up from that Tic Tac, because if any aircraft we had could have picked up a signal, it was that Hawkeye, no doubt about it. Okay, the UAPTF holds a small amount of data that appear to show UAP demonstrating acceleration or degree of signature management. Additional rigorous analysis are necessary by multiple teams or groups of technical experts to determine the nature and validity of this data. It should say this data, I think, but we are conducting further analysis to determine if breakthrough technologies were demonstrated. So again, what they're saying is, we don't know. UAP probably lack a single explanation. The UAP documented in this limited data set demonstrate an array of aerial behaviors, reinforcing the possibility there are multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations. Our analysis of the data supports the construct that if and when individual UAP incidents are resolved, they will fall into one of 5 potential explanatory categories: airborne clutter, national atmospheric phenomenon, USG or industry development programs, foreign adversary systems, and a catch-all other bed, with the exception of one instance where we determined with high confidence that the reported UAP was airborne clutter, specifically a deflating balloon. We currently lack sufficient information in our data set to attribute incidents to specific explanations. Okay, that deflating balloon that they're talking about, I'm thinking that's obviously got to be the Batman balloon, Tim.
Yeah, I think so too. Yep.
Yeah. Which, and that's when we first saw this, we actually analyzed that particular incident ourselves here at the channel, and we came to the conclusion at first that it looks like the Batman balloon, probably it. Then I dug a little further into this and realized that at 30,000 feet, I'm having a real hard time with a foil children's balloon making it to 30,000 feet. Now, is it out of the realm of possibility? No, but it's pretty freaking unlikely. So, in my opinion. Okay, right. These are the categories. Airborne clutter. These objects include birds, balloons, recreational unmanned vehicles, or airborne debris like plastic bags that muddle is seen and affect an operator's ability to identify true targets, such as enemy aircraft. So those Walmart bags are flying at 30,000 feet in the air now, huh? Okay.
I don't believe that.
Not for a second.
No.
Natural atmospheric phenomenon. Natural atmospheric phenomenon includes ice crystals, moisture, and thermal fluctuations that may register on some infrared and radar systems. USG or industrial development programs. Some UAP observations could be attributed to developments and classified programs by U.S. entities. We were unable to confirm, however, that these systems accounted for any of the UAP reports that we collected. Okay, foreign adversary systems. Some UAP may be technologies deployed by China, Russia, another nation, or non-governmental entity. See, you're talking about a drone, something that you recognize. And if you look at the industrial development programs, again, I'll read it again. Some UAP observations could be attributed to developments in classified programs by U.S. entities. We were unable to confirm, however, that these systems accounted for any of the UAP reported. So they're admitting that we've got some pretty funky stuff that's classified. I mean, who knows? Maybe they're talking about the Lazar thing.
But they did come out and say, or a non-governmental entity, which could be, if it's not a foreign adversary, right?
Right.
Could be something off-world.
Oh, it would be. I mean, if it's not a foreign adversary, then you're looking at, the chances are you're looking at aliens, or you're looking at interdimensional something, or you're looking at a race that's been on this planet longer than we have, and we still don't know anything about them. So, right. and to me, in that,
as well.
Yeah, in that scenario, I got to go with alien. I think that's the alien life is probably the most, you know.
I do. I think that as well. And there's just no way that it's a bag or a bird or anything. Like, how are you going to get like you said the other day, Tim? How are you going to get a reflection or any sort of thing from the back of a bird's bum or something like that? Like, and a bag. Like, to be honest, you know, the excuses they use to try and hide it is just ridiculous, and they must just think that we're silly and. Brainwashed. We're not brainwashed. A lot of us are very open, and we know exactly what we're seeing.
Exactly. How is a trained pilot who is trained to recognize planes from 25 miles off, all right, going to misidentify an ice crystal or a floating garbage bag? Right. They're not. They're filming something other. They're filming something that is credible and has a physicality to it. So there is something there, and the government is kind of refusing to wrap their head around it and state it as fact.
Right.
Yeah, and it is like that. I agree, because like pilots are educated. They know the sky. They know what they would see in the sky. They know, obviously, being that close up to them, because they could be very, very near to these objects when they're flying, they can see them very clearly. And in my opinion, as everybody knows, the government are these sort of people. They're never ever going to fully admit to us that these exist. They have got more evidence on what's going on than they're letting on to us, and we are going to have to find out for ourselves. And this is going to take a lot of digging. Hopefully they will bring more out, but you can't sit there and say to a pilot that they do not know what they're seeing. The same as normal people like us when we're having our sightings. We're going to know the difference between an object that we use every day on this earth and an object that is not of what we would see on earth. We do know that. You do not need to be educated. You do not need to be top researchers to know when you're seeing something that is not Earth made. There is not humans flying these objects. They are extraterrestrial. What they are, we do not know fully. We've got some species, some sorts of terrestrial beings as well, but realistically, the true way that we're going to know anything was if we were so lucky to have an alien land down here and want to come and talk to us. Then we could kind of probably be able to understand more. So that's why you need people like us to be digging and trying to, leak out where people are hiding things. And there is a lot of that going on. This report is really good, but this report is not giving the evidence and the fact the way that us as civilized people and people that believe, they're not giving us enough. And I will talk on behalf of everyone. And I know that there's a lot that agree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're talking around the subject, actually.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, and they're trying to say, kind of like what Luis Elizondo said recently. He said, we're going to have like a shoulder shrug moment here. They're going to shrug their shoulders and they're going to say, yeah, they're real, they exist. We don't know who's piloting them. We don't know who the occupants are, if there are even occupants, if it's hypersonic technology from China, Russia. We don't know, but we're going to blame it on a foreign adversary because that's what we can wrap our head around. We can't wrap our head around the alien or extraterrestrial phenomenon because is so outlandish, is what was said in that news clip I played a little while back. They just can't wrap their heads around it. So we're not getting the truth. Go ahead, Tommy.
Plus, they've painted themselves in a corner with the lies and the deceit and everything else for decades, the intimidations, and we've spoken about that ad nauseum. And now, once you've told that many lies, once that many falsehoods, untruths, and all of that, it's really, really difficult to dig yourself out of a hole, especially when you're talking about to a nation. I mean, this isn't lying to your girlfriend. This is a nation we're talking about. In a world, really.
And with the fact that there's been so many people that have been discriminated and have been ruined because of their statements and saying that they're not truthful in what they're saying. So that would cause a big uproar as well. You look at the amount of people that have lost everything for what they believe in, for being part of ufology. You've got all of these people, as you said, Tommy, the other day, there are a lot of people that have gone missing or something has happened to them. They can't come out fully, can they? Because then, they're just as they are anyway. They're guilty, they're bad, and they're not truthful, but it would cause another war, to be quite honest, I think.
Well, yeah, if we were to actually come out and admit that we have this technology, especially like the Bob Lazar thing, then you're talking about a serious balance of power imbalance militarily on the planet. And that wars have started for a lot less stuff than that. That's for sure.
Right. Every country in the world would have to be notified of what type of technology we have and have access to that technology as well. Otherwise, as Tommy said, the balance of power on the planet would shift, and the United States would be omnipotent over any other country. And that would start a major war, like you said, Sherry.
Yep. Let's go ahead and continue. Exactly. Let's go ahead and continue here, folks. Okay, now this is the other category. All right, this is the final category of how these things are going to be cataloged. Although most of the UAP described in our database probably remain unidentified due to limited data or challenges to collection, processing, or analysis, we may require additional scientific knowledge to successfully collect on, analyze, and characterize some of them. We would group such objects in this category pending scientific advances that allow us to better understand them. The UAPTF intends to focus additional analysis on the small number of cases where a UAP appeared to display unusual flight characteristics or signature management. And we're almost at the end here, folks. So UAP threatened flight safety and possibly national security. And this is the one I think that we all need to really pay close attention to. UAP pose a hazard to safety of flight and could pose a broader danger in some instances represent sophisticated collection against U.S. military activities by a foreign government or demonstrate a breakthrough aerospace technology by a potential adversary. Ongoing airspace concerns. When aviators encounter safety hazards, they are required to report these concerns. Depending on the location, volume, and behavior of hazards during incursions on ranges, pilots may cease their tests and or training and land their aircraft, which has a deterrent effect on the reporting. There's a bullet. The UAPTF has 11 reports of documented instances in which pilots reported near misses with a UAP. Now think about that for a moment. And to Tim's point earlier, these are guys that know their aircraft. They know who, just at a glance from 20 miles away or longer. And you're saying that these guys they're misidentifying this or something. There's just no way. These pilots are too well trained for that. Okay, potential national security challenges. We currently lack data to indicate any UAP are a part of a foreign collection program or indicative of a major technological advancement by a potential adversary. We continue to monitor for evidence of such programs given the counterintelligence challenge they would pose, particularly as some UAP have been detected near military facilities or by aircraft carrying the USG's most advanced sensor systems. Explaining UAP will restore analytic collection and resource investment. Standardize the reporting, consolidate the data, and deepen the analysis. In line with the provisions of Senate Report 116-233, accompanied by the IAA for FY 2021, the UAPTF's long-term goal is to widen the scope of its work to include additional UAP events documented by a broader swath of the USG personnel and technical systems in its analysis. As data set increases, the UAPTF's ability to employ data analytics to detect trends will also improve. The initial focus will be to employ artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms to cluster and recognize similarities and patterns in features of the data points. As the database accumulates information from known aerial objects, such as weather balloons, high altitude or super pressure balloons, and wildlife, machine learning can add efficiency by pre-assessing UAP reports to see if those records match similar events already in the database. So I guess what they're saying is, do birds migrate here? Do they migrate here often? That sort of thing, which, you know, that's a waste of everybody's time and money. The UAPTF has begun to develop interagency analytical and processing workflows to ensure both collection and analysis will be well informed and coordinated. The majority of UAPT data is from the U.S. Navy reporting, but efforts are underway to standardize incident reporting across the U.S. military services and other government agencies to ensure all relevant data is captured with respect to particular incidents and any U.S. activities that might be relevant. The UAPTF is currently working to acquire additional reporting, including from the U.S. Air Force, and has begun receiving data from the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA. Again, this is another example of them saying, okay, we don't know what it is, but we've got a plan to start working together, you know, to try to analyze these phenomenon and in an organized way, I guess, is what they're trying to do. Because again, like we were just talking about earlier, they didn't used to, up until 2019, even have a form to report something like this. I mean, so how could it be reported? Okay, another bullet point. Although the U.S. Air Force data collection has been limited historically, the Air Force began a 6-month pilot program in November of 2020 to collect in most likely areas to encounter UAP, and is evaluating how to normalize future collection, reporting, and analysis across the entire Air Force. So the Air Force is looking for it. That's what they're saying. The FAA captures data related to UAP during the normal course of managing air traffic operations. The FAA generally ingests this data when pilots and other airspace users report unusual or unexpected events to the FAA's Air Traffic Organization. In addition, the FAA continuously monitors its systems for anomalies, generating additional information that may be of use to the UAPTF. The FAA is available to isolate data of interest and to the UAPTF and make it available. The FAA has a robust and effective outreach program that can help identify UAPTF, reach members of the aviation community to highlight the importance of reporting UAP. So in other words, what they're saying here is that they've reached out to pilots and they're saying, listen, if you see it, report it. You're not going to lose your job. You're not going to lose your career. Nobody's going to think you're crazy. You're not going to be that Japanese pilot that flew over Alaska that time. You're not going to be that guy. Okay. So that's the thing that they're trying to, again, they're alleviating the stigma on this so we can get down to business and figure out what the hell is going on here. Okay. Expanded collection. The UAPTF is looking for novel ways to increase collection of UAP cluster areas when the U.S. forces are not present as a way to baseline standard UAPT activity and mitigate the collection bias in its data set. One proposal is to use advanced algorithms to search historical data captured and stored by radars. The UAPTF also plans to update its current interagency UAPT collection strategy in order to bring to bear relevant collection platforms and methods from the DoD and the IC. Increased investment in research and development. The UAPTF has indicated that additional funding for research and development could further the future study of these topics laid out in this report. Such investments should be guided by a UAPD collection strategy. UAP collection strategy, UAP and R&D technical roadmap, and a UAP plan program. So, and then it just goes into the appendix. So that is the report, folks. We're talking about basically 7 pages of information that didn't really tell us a whole lot of anything. Let me go ahead and stop sharing here, Tim. Okay, what it told us was, okay, we're acknowledging that these things are real. We've come up with a plan to talk to an interagency plan to be able to track and document and report these things. Okay. Other than that, it doesn't really tell us anything else. I mean, unless I'm missing something.
Although in one of the last paragraphs that you read, it did say that they did not find any evidence of it being a foreign adversarial technology, nor was it any one of our black projects. So if that's the case, that rules out those 2 items. What is left? In my opinion, that's extraterrestrial or interdimensional. So they're going to have to, or a multiverse or extra dimensional or whatever, they're going to have to look into other avenues. And like I said before, I don't think they can wrap their head around that.
Sherry, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, it's really hard to explain because obviously, like, I'm not as educated as you guys, but in my opinion, you know, yeah, they are informing us that they, you know, these objects are real and that, but they're not really coming forward with what we're wanting to hear. Yes, we know that objects are real, but we want to know who's driving those objects, where all of this technology that our world seems to get all the time, that is very enhanced, where's it all coming from? We want information. We know we're not the only life form in this world, and you know, I want, what I'd like to see is that everybody's acceptance of any race, despite what they are. You know, we're a world that is kept very blind to a lot of the real things that are actually going on. And for me, in my opinion, you know, okay, thank you for like telling us that yes, the UFOs exist, but I'm not going to say thank you because you're like fully, because you're not giving us the information that we deserve to have. And we've took a lot of scrutiny. We've took a lot of people looking down on us because of what we believe. And, you know, to me, it angers me because now they're actually starting to accept what we're seeing. So what about all these years that you put stuff up on people saying that they, you know, they're ill, they're mentally sick?
Sure.
You're delusional, you're this, you're that. You know, we're not delusional. We're very open. We're acceptance to the real world, and there should be more people like that. You know, I'm really honoured to be on here, but I can't talk about it in detail like you do because I'm still very new at learning through ufology. The reason I'm doing my ufology is through experiences that I believe are extraterrestrial experiences. So that is why I'm doing this, and because I love it.
That's fantastic, and we're very excited to have you. And that's the thing. I mean, we really kind of wanted the just a regular person's take on this and how you feel about it. And like to your point, you're saying they're just talking around the subject. They're giving us the runaround here. They're telling us what we already know.
They're clouding it, aren't they? They're clouding and smoking it. They're
Sure.
keeping the real fact and the truth away. They know more than they're letting on, and they just don't want us to know because, as you guys keep saying, for them to reveal everything, it would just be a disaster for them because the years and years of lies. And, you know, like you said, Tommy, you know, there are so many stories out there that will be lost now because people have passed away. People are no longer here. You know, this hasn't just been going on for the last 40, 50 years. This has been going on for hundreds of years. So we've lost a lot of true evidence because of people's beliefs and trying to hide it.
Now, it does reference that this is a preliminary report, and I hope that that's the case because I'm hoping to see I want to see some photos. I want to see some video. I want to see the close-up stuff, not the fuzzy crap it looks like you took it on a 1980s computer or something.
Yeah, not the fuzzy flare stuff.
Right. They've got the good stuff. We know from Lou Elizondo that they've got really good photos of these things being right outside the cockpit like it was sitting next to you in the lane of traffic. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. There's just too much. There is too much evidence, and like you both explained on my stream the other day, and from what I've clearly seen, it's too hard to be able to hide the sightings and stuff now. It's becoming more prominent, and there are objects being seen that you can't explain, and they can't put themselves around it anymore because it's blatantly right there for not one person to see, but groups are starting to see them. So, they've got no choice but to be opening to us. They're just not opening to us the way they should be.
Right. I think eventually they will.
Yeah.
But it's gonna take a long time because they're gonna drag it out. It's the U.S. government after all, and we're other governments are the same way. They're dragging it out because I personally believe they feel like if they give out the information, they're going to lose control over the technology. And they don't want to lose control of the technology because, like Tom Rogan said back in that one interview I played, he said that the Chinese and the Russians are looking at the UFO phenomenon the same way we are. And the United States doesn't want Russia or China or some other foreign adversarial power to develop the technology before we do. So that's the whole problem. It's the military industrial complex. They have their control over the UFO information because they don't want us to, they think it's a national security threat. They're trying to protect the technology so they can develop it.
I tell you what, I would bet my bottom dollar that when we actually started coming out, the United States government started coming out talking about this, I'll bet you Russia and China probably let off a real sigh of relief. And the reason being is that they probably did think it was us. And if it were us, certainly we wouldn't be talking about it openly. So, I mean, if you think about it, now we're all kind of on the same page here. The tragedy of it is that I don't think that our countries will ever come together and exchange information on the subject. That would be helpful, but I don't see it happening, especially not with the Chinese because, secretive they are.
But no, I do see, I'm sorry, Sherry, I do see us working with the UK. The British Ministry of Defense has come out with their reports, and we've heard that from Nick Pope on several occasions. And I would say that the United States and the UK are working together. What do you think, Sherry?
Definitely. The United States has America's back in a lot of things, wars, everything. We are a very close community, even though we're on opposite sides of the world. When it comes to any sort of problem or anything that needs to be revealed, UK and USA are always stood together, arm to arm. So we are a big family. My opinions on China and that coming forward, like you guys now, they're not going to. They're very advanced in their technology. They're not going to share with us if they could get further. And, in some ways, we probably wouldn't want them, not being disrespectful, but we wouldn't want them to be involved because it will overcrowd what we have worked for so many years.
Right, exactly.
So, UK and USA, definitely, they are together in everything. UK's got no problems with coming to USA and revealing anything, just as you guys don't with us, you know what I mean? So, we're not a problem. And it's really good to have these shows where there are people from different countries coming together that are into this same subject, and it shows people that, we're all in the same situation. We're all asking who these beings are, where these objects come from, what are their purposes for being here. How long have they been here? Because we know they've been here a long time, some of them. So, it's really important to do this sort of work, I think. And I think it's really good. And I think that we should maybe do this a lot more, Tim and Tommy, coming together, building this UFO community so that we can maybe get into doing some research, learn to find some equipment and use your phones, learn people to do it so that the right way, so that everybody is getting more evidence and looking up to the sky more.
Yes.
If we look at this report as a whole, I mean, yeah, it's a rag. Okay. I'll give you that. But at least there is one good thing. There is one tiny point of light at the end of this tunnel, I think. And that's the fact that the United States government has finally got itself together and have a standardized investigation procedure on this subject, on UAPs or UFOs, because now they got the right. Everybody's got the right forms. Everybody can report. Now you can report it. In fact, I'm sure that NATO has probably been given the same directives. Every country in NATO to report it this way. We have a standardized system now. That's something we didn't have before. So I think that's an improvement.
Another improvement is that they actually said in the report that they're going to extend funding to extend the study period in regards to the analysis of the UFO phenomenon. They're not going to stop studying it. They're going to put out other reports along the way, and we're going to learn more along the way. So this is going to continue. It's not going to end today, June 25th, 2021. We're going to continue having research done, and they're going to continue trying to be as transparent as possible. But with any government, as we all know, transparency is really hard to wrangle. So just ask Tommy Highway, who used to be a government employee.
Yeah, not anymore, apparently. Even though the stigma is lifted or whatever, somewhat, I've been told recently by somebody in the know that I need not even apply for government security clearances or anything. I can work state and local government if I wanted to, but it's out. It's because I'm a part of this movement, and that's the bottom line. But at least I know that going in, not to even bother. But I'll tell you, it is interesting as the report is. Let's go to our interesting guest. Sherry, would you like to tell us your story? You have a very interesting one.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
please.
As I said to you guys, I wasn't as experienced about ufology. Yes, I know bits, and I'm very, an enthusiast when it comes to that. My uncle and that believes in aliens. We always have had conversation, but when it comes to alien abduction, I was very, very weary of that. I wasn't really a believer of it. I thought that maybe that was a bit far-fetched until I had my personal experience myself. And that's when I decided that I wanted to go into ufology and look into it more. I was at a friend's house. So I texted a friend to come and get me. It was about 12 o'clock at night. And we're driving down the road and we come to the opening to go round a roundabout. And we're sat there. And there was this huge object above the car, no sound. And it was just hovering there. And this most brightest white light come out, blinded us. We could not see anything. And somehow this machine had moved us from one side of the road all the way down to the other road. Now, this would have only took 5 minutes to get down. And when we'd come back round from whatever had happened, we'd lost an hour and a half of time.
Wow.
We do not have any recall of what happened. We just remember seeing the object before and being sat at an opposite side of the road at the end. And when seeing this light just before, the object was over the car and there was this triangular shape that was moving continuously underneath this object.
Wow.
And I'm not saying I see an alien. I'm not saying that I see inside the UFO because I didn't. But I do know that there was something there, a light being down. We lost an hour and a half and we don't know what's happened. I've got a very strange lump in my arm that was not there before. And I have recently, in the last week, since having the conversation with Tommy and that, one night I'd gone to bed and I've got up the next morning to go in the bath and I've now got a circular shape in my chest above my heart, which I don't know where it's come from. And when just before I'd had that experience, I'd been seeing a lot of lights in the sky. I put it down to being maybe, satellites or something, but those lights would always be there. After having that experience, those lights have become more prominent. I see them a lot. I have had very weird dreams where light shows, and I've actually physically got up and woke out of my sleep, gone in the front room. There has been a light coming through my room. But when I look, you can't see the object. You can just see the whole place is illuminated in white.
Wow.
And like I said, I'm not going to say I've been abducted or I've had that experience, but I know that what happened to me was real. I know that it can't be explained. It was unusual. There's no way it was of a earth-made machine. There was just no way. There was no sound. The way that it moved, just as quick as it appeared, and after that, it was gone. You know, there isn't an object in this world at the minute that could do that. That's in our resources, and just the whole experience of it, the feelings that I've had after certain things, which I've heard from watching numerous shows with you guys, you know, where you've talked about, you know, they put implants in you and things to read you, to understand you. I do believe that maybe I was abducted, but I'm not saying that I was. And I don't know if they're coming back continuously, because I see this happening quite regularly, the lighting and things like that. So I don't know. Maybe they've come forward and they're here because they want me to become enthusiastic in this as well, because I do other sides. I do believe that they're very aware of us. They can read us. They know what we're about. They can see our spiritualities. And maybe they're doing this to make me want to study in them and, you know, expose the truth. I don't know.
Right, exactly. I have one question for you, Sherry, and then Tommy, I'll segue over to you. Sherry, do you think there's a paranormal connection to the UFO phenomenon?
Yes, I do. I believe that paranormal is very much part of ufology. Ufology is very much in the paranormal and supernatural category. They are a being that is not known and is unusual. They are said to have certain energies and powers and ways that they can use. So very much paranormal and supernatural, very much links in. And the fact that you need certain objects and certain things to be able to catch them as well, just like you would with a spirit. So yes, they are definitely connected to paranormal. And I do believe that if you can do things like astral projection and things, I believe that they can get you that way as well. I can astral project. I go on the astral plane. I've seen strange things. I believe there are doorways that open that let all sorts of life form in, spirit, extraterrestrial, all sorts of energy. You know, the astral plane is a line that goes between our world and the, you know, the system, the universe, the sky. It's in between. So there is going to be a lot of energy that is going to be able to travel in that, including us.
Yep, that's a very interesting theory. Yeah. If you don't mind my asking sort of a personal question, do you have children?
I do have I have two children, but I went through a very bad situation with an ex-partner, and I do not have my children in my care.
I see. Well, the reason I ask is that a lot of times when women are abducted, a lot of the stories that we're hearing about, like, are fetuses that turn up missing, you know, things like that, just strange things, like the person thought they were pregnant, all of a sudden now they're not pregnant anymore. And I just wondered if you'd ever maybe experienced anything like that.
I've got kids. I don't know if that maybe there may be studying the female body to see how they hold the baby and how the body changes, because in realistic, even though they're astral, you know, that they are of another being, they may not mother or carry the way that we do. They may do it completely different. So they're learning about it, aren't they? You know, they don't know how to put clothes on, like Tim said. You know what I mean? They'll put your clothes on back to front and upside down, whatever. You know what I mean? They are not of our knowledge in that way, but they are in technology states, and I do believe that they're taking us for very many different reasons.
Right, exactly. For physical specimens and other reasons. They're trying to learn what we're about. I think both in an emotional state, because there have been reports of abductions where people have been made to feel fear, not made to feel comfortable. You know, like, we're not going to hurt you. They've been made to feel fear so that whatever is experimenting on them can harvest the emotion, to learn what the emotion is. Because like you said, Sherry, a lot of these beings don't know what we're about, what our emotions are. Maybe they have no concept of emotions, and maybe we're a very emotional
maybe
planet.
they don't have a conscience. They don't know how to progress and show emotion and feelings, so they can't understand us. So that's why they do some of these things. I can personally say, through my experience, I did not have a bad experience. It was more intriguing for me. some did said like that you guys had asked like that, you know, said something about the fear, and I said I actually don't fear them. I actually accept any sort of life form, and you know, sometimes I do wish that they would show themselves more, so that I could at least maybe get some pictures of them, or you know, just something. You know what I mean? Because a lot of us are not scared of them, and a lot of us do want to be at one with them, and we want to understand why they're here. You know, why should life forms not be able to work together? You know, we're all here for the same reason. We're all important in this world, so we all should be accepted. You know, and I think a lot of it as well. The reasons they don't make themselves fully known is because they know the sort of people that we are in other ways. They would be over examined. They would become ill. You know, this has been done.
Right.
So they're not going to come to us in that way because, you know, they've already seen bad things that's been done to their kind, you know. And I just hope that they can hear us and they know that we're not all like that. Not all of us want to hide them and experiment on them. Some of us just want to know who they are.
Right.
If you look at it from their point of view, though, we're a pretty savage, unpredictable race.
That's what I'm saying. We've done some nasty things to them, and they've seen a lot of stuff that we can do in this planet as well. So they're like, they keep their distance, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because we're so unpredictable. I mean, they could have been around watching the Romans fight, things like that. I mean, I'm sure they were, you know, all the way back in those days. You know, again,
reptilian race. I very much believe in a reptilian race. I do believe there is a reptilian form. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Reptilians are said to live underground, but there are mentions of reptilian worship and reptilian carvings that go way back to Sumeria. And they're also mentioned in, I think, the royal crest of the royal house in England. There are dragons, and the dragons are a direct representation of the reptilian race, reptilian bloodline.
Over here, some of the controversial over here is that our royal family is not of a human race. A lot of us don't believe that they're of a human race. They all live till they're really, really old. Really, really old. But they are different. I don't know. Like a lot of people over here say that they're not human. That they're different. There's been theories of things that have meant to have been seen that they do, and things like that. So, you know, but again, it's something we're never going to truly know because they're not going to reveal that, are they? So, and maybe this is another reason to why the government is so closed and so funny about revealing anything, because it will go against them. Maybe there is more to this.
Could be.
If we could all just step out of our box, and I always say this, we live in a box, you know, where you get up in the morning, eat breakfast, go to work, come home, eat supper, play with the kids, watch TV, go to sleep, right? If we could step out of our box and just realize a portion of what you know, Sherry, and what Tommy and I know, and what other ufologists in the community know, it would blow your mind. It would blow your mind.
There's some amazing stuff out there, guys, and it's been hid for so long, and it's people like us that have always believed in it and followed our hearts that are bringing that to you now, guys, along with the guys that believe in it as well, like you are angels in the room. You know, without you guys, we wouldn't be who we are as well. Having your input and your knowledge as well is absolutely amazing. You know, all I'm going to say is always stand strong in what you believe and never let anyone overcloud that. You know, we are very spiritual beings and very capable of doing many, many things. So just believe and always believe, and don't let, you know, hearsay overpower what you've always believed in. And be more open, be more acceptance to it, because that's when things really start to happen.
Definitely. I was given recently from the head coordinator of Contact in the Desert UFO Conference, I was given some meditation literature to study in regards to personal reasons, but also in regards to opening myself up to more of a better
spiritual
view
level, a spiritual level.
A spiritual level, because our planet is not really circled around a spiritual viewpoint. We're more of, like Tommy said, a warring, savage planet. If we could all come together and be a little bit more spiritual, we could change our planet. We could change the way we live. We could change everything.
Spirituality is very important, and spirituality is in all of us. And yes, meditation is a very, very good way of doing it. It's about closing your eyes and embracing your emotions and your feelings. It's about accepting your one self. It's about accepting that you are an amazing being that is very open, and you know, this world is not just you. Okay. And when you do meditation, it opens your mind, it opens your body to so much more. And it's, you know, it's very good for you to do as well, because it keeps your mind active. It helps you to see in a spiritual level. Like some of you would walk through a woods, you'll see a woods normal. When I go through a woods, I can see lights coming from certain areas. I can see life forms that you guys can't see with your physical eyes, but they're there. Okay. It's all very real. And it's all about being open. And if you don't believe, that's when it doesn't happen. You do need to believe, and you need to believe in yourself. You know, everybody else's opinions just clouds you and stops you being who you are. Just always listen to your heart and your soul, because that is your true speaker.
Anybody that's fixated on all of the small problems, the small micro problems in life, is always destined to miss the big picture. That's just the way it goes, folks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to open yourself up. You need to become awake. And I think a lot of people have awakened recently. So that's why this issue is gone mainstream, and why we're able to talk about it so freely as we do.
The impossible just became possible, bottom line.
Right.
Exactly, it is. The impossible has become possible, and the fact is there's so many communities now that are very strong bound and very, very much in belief of what they do, that it's hard to stand by them anymore and to stand against them. They can't, because there's too many of us that believe. There's too many of us that are revealing what they don't want us to reveal. And you know, a lot of people step back and they fear that. Don't step back and fear that. Be you. No one has to tell you who you can and can't be. You be you.
Right. That's why I'm UFO man, and that's why you're Willow Red Wolf, blessed be. Gotcha. Yeah. And that's why Tommy
Willow's my witch name. Red Wolf is my shaman name, because I'm very in contact with nature and with druid and all that sort of work. So I am very spiritual, and I see many things and work with many things. I do spells because I'm a witch as well. So, you know, I am very in contact with my spirituality and everything that's around me. So for me, this is my dream. And I've been doing this for, well, since I was really, really young. But actually educating people, that's been in the last 7 or 8 years. And I wouldn't turn it back at all. I love everything I do.
Well, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. So.
Right.
Exactly. And it doesn't feel like a job. It just feels like a passion. It just feels like it's right. It's my fate. This is what I'm supposed to do.
And you're more than welcome here on our channel anytime, Sherry, because we really appreciate what you know and your insight. And you're very entertaining and very friendly. So you're more than welcome to come back.
Thank you. And same to you guys. Like I said, I've invited you back in a couple of months to come on mine. And we're not going to do it along the lines of what we've done last time. Now we really, this time I want to actually really go more into the UFOs and the alien side of it, and try to get them out there a little bit more, you know, because I really do feel that it's very important to bring them out, because in a lot of our work that we do at the moment, they're being hidden, they're being discriminated against by being told that we don't actually believe that the aliens are real. It's just the UFOs we believe in. I think people like us need to bring them out, because they are real. They deserve to be noticed and known, and I'm going to do that job, and I know that you guys are as well. So
exactly. I want to say to everyone, out there listening and in the chat room, you heard the UFO report immediately 1 hour after it was dropped here on the UFO Man channel. And if you want to see it again, rewatch the live stream and you'll be able to see it. Otherwise, you can find it on UFOmannetwork.com and upload a copy for yourself.
Absolutely. Well, folks, listen, I think we had a great show. We want to thank Sherry for coming. What a very interesting person she is. Again, folks, you go ahead and check out her channel. That's Paranormal World Investigators. She's got some really neat stuff on there. She's very entertaining. She has some very great guests as well. We did her show a few weeks ago. It was a pleasure to do it, of course. And we're very thankful for her spending some time with us. Regarding the UFO UAP report, folks, okay. I'm going to have to look at this as a glass half full kind of situation. The reason I say that is because we finally have an admission from the government that there's something going on that they don't understand. These things are real. And now they have a governmental plan to be able to collect this information and data and try to make some kind of sense out of it. And I'm going to call that a win, considering what we've seen in this country and really the world for the last several decades with the deniability, with all the horrible things that have happened to people. I mean, there have been people that have taken, jumps off of buildings and things like that over this issue. And now we're finally coming to a point where, we can talk about this openly. Again, like we always say, it's no longer the tale told by a drunken hillbilly. All right. This is real.
Right.
And I'm just happy that the government's acknowledged it and that they have some sort of a plan on how to collect that information.
There is a breakthrough. There is, but there's just a little bit more work to be done. Sure. There is definitely a breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm waiting for those 4K images from the 4K cameras on the jets. I really am. And from the cell phone photos where the object is right outside the cockpit. I mean, they got clear cockpits. Come on, you can see it right there.
Satellite imagery.
You got the Galaxy S21 camera. If you got that in your cockpit, you're going to have the best cell phone photo ever. So even if you're traveling at whatever speed they're traveling at, I'm sure they can capture it. Anyways, I want to say this. Remember to go over to contactinthedesert.com. Check out the people that are speaking. Virtual passes are available. It's from June 25th to the 28th. Tommy and I are featured with several interviews that we did last week are going to be featured in the free host window. So if you don't want to pay for a virtual pass, you can access free content.
Could I ask you guys to send me the link to your show? Because I was trying to find that and I couldn't find it. Could somebody send me the link so I can actually watch what you're doing? And also, I am going to be live tomorrow doing Paranormal, and we've got some really interesting shows coming up as well to do with serial killers and other stuff to do with the paranormal side. So
sure. When we get the link for the show, we'll send it to you. Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to miss it. Because I want
one thing I want to advertise is tomorrow night from, if I know correctly, 8 o'clock Central Time to 9 o'clock Central Time. Tommy and I have the pleasure of interviewing Whitley Strieber, who was made famous when he wrote the book Communion, and then a movie came out after that entitled Communion, starring Christopher Walken. So if you're interested in seeing the interview, please join us at Contact in the Desert, the host window on the front page of the virtual conference on June 26th at 8 o'clock Central Time. Anything else to say, Tommy?
I don't think so. Just thanks for coming out, folks. Really appreciate it. Again, take the report as what it is. I'm thinking look at it as a positive at this point. It's not a negative. I know we're all disappointed. We wanted to see ET craft video. We wanted to see satellite imagery and all that, and we got diddly squat. Okay. But hopefully, being as how the United States government cannot keep a secret, I suppose that we're probably destined to see a lot more video and things in the future.
Right. So, Sherry, any last comments?
Open yourselves. Keep looking up to the sky, guys, and believe in yourselves, believe in your heart, and keep believing in the extraterrestrials and the strange and the unknown. It's very real. Lots of love and light and blessings, guys. Be safe. And thank you for coming and being with me, Tim and Tommy. And lots of love and light.
Thank you to everyone in the chat room and everybody who listened online, and from myself, Tommy, and Sherry. Oops, hold on a second. Oh, what happened?